is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 90. 10 away from triple digits. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. A.K.A. Lee James, a.k.a. Sebastian Drew, E.C., a.k.a. Easterdamus, a.k.a. Pap E. O'Daniel, a.k.a. The Fashionista, a.k.a. Chili Willie, a.k.a. Joe E. Chestnut, a.k.a. Eon Stockel. E. Going back long form here with the intro because we're back to the typical long form podcast and a long week ahead for Austin FC. On Sunday, we'll hit a span of 3 matches in 8 days, all of them, of course, crucial to the playoff race. But we also will go back to a North End podcast tradition and talk a little bit about the weather. It's fucking raining right now. How about that?
I don't know if it's raining where I'm at, but it's very nice. The walks today wasn't baking. I'm sorry, I can't even get the words out. It's been so good. Look, I'm just excited, man. I am amped to be back. As we outlined, I believe 2 pods ago, pretty much all these games are play-in games for us at this point. So there's going to be an intensity to these matches that I'm really looking forward to. So I'm excited. We're going to be back at the Q. We got a big game coming up. It's money, baby. It's crunch time. I'm hype.
Yes, it is. I am also sharing in that excitement as we inch ever closer to returning to Q2 this coming Sunday. Let's go ahead and just jump right in here and talk a little bit about the Portland Timbers, Austin's opponent here on Sunday. Of course, a little bit of history between these two already through our 2+ seasons. Of course, we will always fondly remember Portland back in 2021, giving us our first victory in club history at Q2 Stadium, that legendary 4-1 home win. And then we followed that up with a 3-1 win over the Timbers about a month and a half after that. And then we closed out the 2021 season with a 3-0 loss up there at Providence Park. I believe Portland needed that result to get into the playoffs that year, if I'm not mistaken, or at least host a playoff match. Whatever it was meaningful for them and not for us. And the subsequent beatdown, followed. And then the Timbers, of course, hosted the MLS Cup final that year and lost in a penalty shootout to NYCFC. Last season, not great between these two teams. The 1-0 road loss early in the season, I believe that was our 3rd match of the regular season last year. That was the game where there was 1 shot on goal, and it went in for Portland. So a rainy match in that one. And then I believe our first weather delay last season was the match at home against the Timbers that ended up being a 2-1 home loss there. I think it was a midweek match as well. But then earlier this season, we didn't get the win on the road up there in the Pacific Northwest, but we did pull out that 2-2 draw on the back of Will Bruin's last-minute equalizer. In that match, I went back and watched a little bit of that. We did play that 3-back look. We had Johnny G and Adam Lundqvist as the wingbacks in that one. And at that point, that was kind of the middle of the injury woes this season, at least for our midfield. That was the game, right, where Seba was miraculously out at the beginning after we knew he had been on the trip with the team. Mm-hmm. And so able to pull out a point there. In that one, Gallagher and Bruin scored the 2 Austin goals. 2 defenders, Claudio Bravo, his first MLS goal in that one, and then Dario Zuparic, both of those Portland goals assisted by Evander, who hopefully will not be on his P's and Q's here on Sunday, but that is certainly the player to watch, or one of the players to watch here. That's the leader of the Timbers this year. We know about a month ago, their head coach, I think for 5 or 6 years, Gio Savarese, was fired after a 5-0 loss at Houston. Miles Joseph is the interim coach. Coach Joseph was the assistant for Gio for the last 6 years, and apparently had stepped in once before when Gio was away from the team as an interim as well. So he's expected to see out the rest of the 2023 season with this team. They are 2-1-1. since the coaching change. They came back home loss to Vancouver. That's part of that Cascadia Cup up there in the Pacific Northwest. But since then, they got a home win over RSL, which is nothing to sneeze at. RSL, a team with a lot of firepower, as we have frequently discussed. They then got a draw on the road against the Sounders, which Seattle was steamrolling them to start this one. And Leo Chu got a yellow for taking his jersey off after scoring the first goal, picks up a yellow later on. He's sent off, and Portland storms back for the 2-2 draw. And then this past weekend, we know, taking on LAFC without Denny Bouanga, and they got the 2-0 victory over LAFC. So this is a team in relatively good form coming in. But again, you look at some of these results that they have, you look at some of the results that Austin has over that same period, and you see the various levels of luck being, in play for both of these teams. Portland on the season, 33 points from their 28 matches, a -10 goal differential. They're led in scoring by Evander. He's got 7, and he's also got 11 contributions total. But Santi Moreno is leading the team with 9 assists. And I don't know if you remember, Santi Moreno during the transfer window had requested a trade, and he remains on this team. 18 of the 34 league goals scored by the Timbers this season come from the trio of Evander, Frank Boley, and your boy, Dairon Asprilla. Some signature wins this year for the Timbers. Of course, that 2-0 home win against LAFC. Bouanga or not, that's still a nice feather in your cap there. They also beat the Columbus Crew 3-2 at home earlier this season. They beat first place St. Louis City 2-1 at home earlier this year. Or no, excuse me. They actually lost to St. Louis 2-1 at home. They're one of the few teams that have beat St. Louis City on the road. 2-1 road win there, which is certainly a valuable 3 points that they grabbed there. And then a 4-1 win at home against Seattle, I believe in April of this season. A couple of those losses. This is a team that really struggles on the road. If we can check out the away table here for the Western Conference, getting that loaded up. Here's some of the notable losses they've had away from home this year. 5-1 loss at Atlanta, 4-1 loss at SKC. I think, we can certainly commiserate with them on that type of result. Then they also lost 4-1 at Minnesota. We a month and a half ago or whatever it was, 2 months, actually longer than that at this point, but we know we won 4-1 on the road at Minnesota. They took a 4-1 loss. And then of course that 5-0 loss at Houston. They are second to last. I should say they are tied for last in terms of points on the road. They have just 9 points from their 14 road matches this season, and -17 goal differential on the road. Those 9 points are equal to SKC and the Colorado Rapids in terms of points from road matches this year. But Colorado sitting in last there with a -20 goal differential on the road. Makes you feel good that we, allowed Colorado to come in and take a point at Q2 earlier this season. But, I digress. Clearly, this is a team that we are favored against, whether it's in Vegas or on paper. Portland has been quite poor on the road this season. So, I know you've watched a little bit of this team. Obviously, we keep a close eye on our boy Evander for the best ball. So whenever Portland is on, we typically, we have that on one of the screens. What are your thoughts on this team coming into Q2? Because obviously mixed results throughout the history between these two clubs.
You took a lot of it that I was going to say there.
Sorry.
I was like, all right, let's see how they responded after they fired the coach. I had the stats ready to go. I'm just sitting here listening to you list all the stuff off. Look, I had said earlier that I thought this team was just living off their name and reputation for a long part of this season. And then they go to Houston and get absolutely demolished, fire the coach, and the team has responded. Now, they have great veteran leadership there with the Chara brothers, Asprilla as well, guys who are, consistent performers in this league. And it looks like they've taken it upon themselves to go ahead and respond aptly to the firing. And they find themselves in the heat of this entire Western Conference. So with that being said, I respect them. I do. And you see their record after getting rid of Gio, and they have some quality wins. The 2-0 win versus LAFC is a big win, regardless if Denny's playing or not. And then you look at their away record coming into Q2, and we said we got to protect home field here. This is a game that we have to get, to be honest, if we want to keep our playoff hopes alive. Honestly, I think it's a must win. I feel like all of these games going forward are play-ins, because then you look, not that I'm trying to look ahead to next week before taking care of business here, but then you go up to New York and you could tear your Achilles up there. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I respect him. Obviously, Evander, quite the talent, one of the best players in the league. Got to find him. Got to know where he is at all times. But I don't think they can get it done. They just haven't performed enough consistently on the road to make me be like, okay, we can't get this one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned that, because I was going to give you the typical, BS MLS answer where we're going to New Jersey on Wednesday because Red Bull Stadium over there in New Jersey. But I'm looking here. I'm not actually positive that Red Bull Arena is turf. Is that something that you had in your notes that you know for sure?
I did not. We can find out real quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm scouring them internets. Yeah, looks like artificial turf here. And then
we're off topic with the Red Bulls stadium at this point. I feel like it wasn't a good joke that worked for the Aaron Rodgers situation.
Well, maybe we'll get into some NFL talk a little bit later, but getting back into this, I guess, and if we can look ahead just for another 5 seconds, maybe you see number 10 take a rest and come off the bench on Wednesday, depending on, if you pick up 3 points here on Sunday, I could certainly see some heavy rotation there getting ready for the match the following Sunday. And let's talk a little bit about us here. I guess I'm all over the place here. We're jumping to New Jersey. We're jumping forward and backward. You mentioned the Chara brothers. I did want to talk about Yimmy a little bit because we know Diego Chara is still as solid as ever, even in his advancing age here for Major League Soccer. But Yimmy, who's, a veteran himself, I think 32 years old at this point, he has been struggling mightily with injuries this season, limited to just 13 appearances in the league so far. So he has appeared in less than half of the Timbers matches and started just 7 of them. But he's also started the last 2 matches for this club. So I think we will see both Chara brothers on the pitch starting the match on Sunday. And again, that certainly does not help our cause when those guys are healthy and humming. Now let's talk about everybody's favorite team. I think, the only question mark we have here health-wise, at least from what we know, right, is Gyasi Zardes. He sat out the match against New England with that calf tightness. You would hope, fingers crossed, knocking on all the wood in sight, that he has been able to take this international break, heal up, and that we're going to see an injury report put out this weekend that has only John Kolmanich on it. We have not had press availability yet this week. That's going to be either Thursday or maybe Friday because of the Sunday match rather than Saturday. But of course, when that happens, we will be scouring all of the fine folks in the press pool there for their clips, their quotes, and all of that good stuff. I guess the most important thing here, in my eyes, to discuss is what are we going to see formation-wise? Because we know that Seba has come out before and said that he prefers playing in that 4-3-3, but it sure does feel like the coaching staff wants to play some form of this 3-back formation. So I guess, what do you think we see on Saturday? Of course, I guess also pertinent to mention, Julio Cascante played yesterday for Costa Rica, so he's got a few days to come back across the pond, get a little bit of a rest. We may or may not see him fit to start. What do you think we see formation-wise here on Sunday?
I think you're going to see the 3-back.
Okay.
I know that we discussed it a little bit before the show here, and I think it gives us the best ability to get our most talented players on the pitch at the same time. And look, it's a big responsibility for those wingbacks when we're put in that position. And, I've been critical of Lundqvist. Obviously, Johnny has been phenomenal all season. But if we want to continue to run this effectively, this formation, we have to get Alex in there somehow. And then like the debate becomes like, who are you moving around? Is it Owen? Is he back to the bench? But I think when we line up with that 3-back, it's when we're at our most dynamic. I know that they have to do a lot on as those wing backs. They have to cover a lot of ground. And if Julio's back, like you hinted at before the show, makes it even better because then you can have the 3 true center backs holding down that back line. So I think that's what it is for me. Obviously, G's health, I think we should be good there. He's had some time. It didn't seem like an overly aggressive injury that he had, so I hope he's back. Bringing up the document here. You can slide him back up to striker. Why is Seba all blocked out? That sucks.
See, I don't know why the Seba image isn't loading there. But so what we have for the audio only here is we were talking before the match about the formation against New England. And because, you look at whether it's pre-match on the Apple TV broadcast or FOTMob, what have you, like these sites and these outlets don't always have the accurate formation. And so, obviously we rewatch the matches at least once, each of us, and try to figure this out. And certainly getting some input from Moon Tower Soccer's Landon Cotham and our buddy Kevin Morris, aka First Kevin. And what they've been talking about is this box midfield. And this graphic we have up doesn't really show that, just because on the site that I made this graphic, that they really pigeonhole you into, okay, here's the formations we have, and you can put your players in these spots. So this is how we rolled out the 11 against New England, right? We had Lima playing that right center back when we were on offense and defense, really. And you had Johnny G on the right and Adam Lundqvist on the left, flying up and down those flanks on offense, being way up into the offensive third, and then having to hustle their butts back on defense. And then you saw, what our buddy Kevin is lovingly referring to, and Profe pushing back on the box midfield, where you've got those 2 defensive midfielders in Johan and Danny, and then you've got your attacking mids, kind of pushed further in towards the midfield in Seba and Alex Ring, and then that striker up top. So I guess this is not exactly how we started, because Zardes was out. Rigoni was up there at the striker.
And then, the box midfield, the advantageous part that comes into play with that, with these wing backs, is that it opens up that space along the sidelines, and we can work through the middle. And like I was saying before, if we can slot Ring back to where Valencia was, and then you can put Rigoni there, that looks to me like it's going to be our most threatening formation.
Yeah, so I think, and there's a couple ways, like if this is the same alignment we see on Sunday, there's a couple ways that Josh and the staff can align that box midfield, right? Like you mentioned, you can slide Alex back there if you want to bring Johan off the bench. And not only can you put Rigoni in that spot where Ring is on the screen, but I think like we're probably fine with Ethan playing that as well. I think I would personally rather play Emmy, especially the way Emmy's been, for him, been in pretty good form over the last couple games, even though we haven't really gotten the results that we wanted. And like you mentioned, you can also put Owen up there. I think I'm still of the mind, and I'm not sure, won't speak for you, that Owen can come in and be a super sub. Might be strong, but like a strong option off of the bench because of the way he can slot into multiple spots, I think, in this formation. Or if we have to shift things late on in the match, he's also versatile in that manner.
I agree. We relied on him heavily throughout this season, and he performed well. He's hit the wall. It is what it is with that. But I still think that we can use him in a bunch of different ways if we're going to play this box mid. And he also adds a bit of a youth, speed, transitional defense that those other guys don't really have outside of Danny. So it gives us options, and that's why I think this might be our best formation, because we can get the most amount of talent. We maximize the talent that we have on this roster with this formation. And, I mean, as well as Alex played in the last game and he gets that goal, I still think he's better suited at the back end of that box in a more defensive role. So this is definitely what I think I want to see. And except obviously you can go Julio for Lima on that right side and have the 3 traditional center backs. But
Yeah,
I know Julio's got to be gassed.
you
And
would think.
with the size of Hedges now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really necessarily hate Nicky too much in that right center back role.
Yeah.
When it was, potentially Alex back there, what we were trying to work with Kip, I just feel a little safer with Matt back there. So I don't hate putting Nicky in that right center back role. But I would prefer Julio, yes.
Yeah, and I think like going back to what you mentioned about Ring, you preferring Ring in that defensive pairing of the box.
Yep.
I think I agree, and it's not just because of his defensive qualities. Like we know about the passing and what he unlocks, being able to break lines and
Yep.
not having to carry the ball. Like I think Owen and Danny both prefer to have the ball at their feet, while Alex is more like I think he can read the tempo of the game a little bit better than those two young guys at this point. And we saw that against New England, right? Despite the miracle finish that we had with his goal, I would still rather get a Rigoni or a Finley, somebody who I just kind of see as more of a goal scoring threat compared to Alex, because he can still do the damage offensively in that Valencia spot there.
Absolutely, especially if he's the secondary kind of offensive option outside of the midfield.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think it's Rigoni for me too there.
Yeah. And I'm with you on the Lehman discussion. Like I think in my ideal world, assuming health for everybody and full fitness, that I do have Julio in that spot where we see Lima on the screen, that right center back. And again, I'm not sure what the optimal alignment of Leo and Matt and Julio is among that back three. But just having those 3 guys on that line and being able to put Johnny over on the left and Lima on the right, and I know like this formation also allows us to play Lundqvist with a little bit more confidence, because again, I just maintain that we have not seen a good game from him in a back 4. So it'll be really interesting to see, like, especially if Julio is fit to play, like it's going to be the first time in a long time that the coaching staff has had the full complement of players ready to go. And I think, man, like I think it still holds true that we've had 8 minutes all season with like our preferred starting 11. Again, I think preferred 11 fluctuates, but Julio went down 8 minutes into the first match and we have not been fully healthy since. It's not an excuse, but it's just a fact.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great to see, like I said, the most amount of talent we can get on the pitch at one time humming. Like, this is part of the reason why I'm so excited, man. Like you said, like we have the core, like we're back with the team. Like now it's just on the line. So I'm just hyped for this game. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's put it on the line here a little bit before we get to score predictions. Who do you think starts in the spots of contention here?
Man. Look, I'm going to say Nicky starts over Julio. I think Julio has just been doing so much. And he gets the goal in this game. That's awesome. But, the international game for those who weren't aware of what I was referring to. But I think he's got to be tired. He's got to be gassed.
Yeah.
So I think it's Nicky. I think he slot Ring back to the Valencia spot. Rigoni goes there on the right, and then I agree with everything else.
Yeah, I think we're in lockstep here. So we'll see. I mean, again, I think it's nice in my eyes to have multiple options here that we're okay with, right? I think there are a lot of different iterations of this lineup that the coaching staff could roll out on Sunday, where I'd be like, all right, let's roll, and not be fretting like earlier in the season, like, what are we going to get out of Rodney today? What are we going to get out of whomever, Alex at center back, things like that.
Where would Memo fit here?
Well, see, that's the thing is I think like Memo, he does not profile to me as a guy that can play that wing back spot. And I think that's where that to me is the biggest weakness of this formation right now, because outside of Lima, Johnny, and Adam, who else can play that role? Because it really feels like we need a fourth.
Is it CJ? Is that the role that they're trying to build for him?
Man, I honestly, I don't.
He's left-footed. Is he left-footed?
Yeah, he's lefty.
Yeah, he's left-footed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, when he got in that game, he was tracking back defensively the whole field.
Yeah, no, he was playing in that Lundqvist spot for the last 5-6 minutes of that match, but
yeah,
I feel like that was like a we need a goal type of thing.
I'm not saying it's a good sample size to call on. I'm just saying he was doing that, and he profiles as someone that's much more dynamic in that wingback role.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the small pool of guys that could potentially do it who are on the roster right now, outside of your Charlie Asensio, right, who is I think very clearly just staying with FC2 the rest of this year at this point with whatever's been going on with him in and out of that team. I mean, we saw CJ play a couple minutes at that left wing back spot the other night. Can Memo Rodriguez do that? Can Ethan Finley do that? See, the little grimace he gave, that's how I feel about pretty much all the other names. So, like, it'll be interesting to see how we maneuver and, like, how much can we actually play this formation the rest of the way? I'm not sure. But, I mean, we started, we've had various iterations of this throughout the season, right, in terms of the 3-back or 5-back, whatever you want to call it. But this is clearly, to me, this is very clearly what this coaching staff wants to run because this is how we started the year.
I mean, it makes sense to me too. Like, look, if you go to the traditional 4-back, and let's just say Julio's not ready to go, then you got Hedges, Leo, then you have to slide Johnny back to left back.
Yeah.
Because Lundqvist hasn't been good in that role. And that really just, I mean, I know Johnny got out to a hot start and we just needed somebody to score goals. But, like, that's not where he's utilized to his full potential, in my opinion. He needs to be in a more attacking role because he can cover ground like that. So,
and he's naturally he played right wing for the majority of his career, right? I think he said that. So it'll be interesting, man. It's nice to have conversations about the depth chart rather than just worrying about it all the time. So let's go ahead. Sorry,
I'm interested to see if Rigoni's on that right. How much
in the attacking mid spot there?
Yeah, and we're an attacking. We're like in an attack play here.
Yeah.
And we switch that box to like a triangle with Seba at the point of that, because clearly we're trying to get him some more space to operate in certain like areas, like outside of the 18, getting him the ball.
Seba at the point, with Rigoni and who else is in that?
So like if Rigoni's pushing up more into a striker's kind of style for a 2-striker look, because they did mention that. You know what I mean? The coaching staff mentioned
that is a good point.
They wanted to have Seba drag behind a dual striker, and then you saw Rigoni be in that striker role versus the Revs. So I'm just trying to figure out if they're trying to open more space for him to operate and he can kind of get into that position that's more of a point of attack.
Yeah.
Because they said they wanted him trailing.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, he was saying, I think Josh said they were going to look at that more because when we did that 2-striker look, whatever, was that St. Louis? That really opened things up for 10. Things to watch here over the next week. It'll be interesting to see how the coaches and the players adjust here.
It's just great to have the dudes back so we can do a bunch of different shit.
Being this healthy has been so rare this year. So again, hoping that G is ready to go here. This is only our second time at Q2 Stadium since July 29th. Of course, last time we were there, 2.5 weeks ago, the Seattle Drew Fisher debacle. So, and by the time we get to match day, it will be over 2 months since our last win in any competition, which was July 15th at home against SKC. So, it'll be good to break this streak here on Sunday. E, I know that's what you're predicting. So, how much is Austin FC winning by on Sunday?
I think we win this game 3-2.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. That was going to be mine, and I hate just parroting what you were going to say. So I'm going to go throwback to 2021, 3-1 Austin over Portland. I have to put the original Verde Black Stripe kit on just for those 2021 vibes on Sunday. And just a note to all the fans, whether you're going to the match or watching at home, this is the lone MLS match on Sunday. It will be broadcast, of course, on Apple TV, but also on Fox. So 7:30 scheduled kick, 7:55 actual kick. Just for anybody, to utilize those extra 25 minutes. I know we do most of the time.
That was mighty kind of you.
Yeah.
That was very kind. That was thoughtful, man.
As we mentioned, Julio Cascante and Costa Rica taking on UAE back on yesterday, on Tuesday. 4-1 loss, butt whooping. Man, some of the goals that went in there for the UAE were just miraculous, lack of a better term. But Julio does get the consolation goal in the 64th minute, headed attempt from, I don't know, man, like 12 yards out. Like, to get that much power on a headed chance from where he was pretty impressive. And Julio's first international goal from what I can find. So congrats to Julio. I know the game wasn't what he wanted, but I believe played all 180 minutes for his country over this past week. And again, it had been so long since he received a call up. So nothing but joy for me for Julio on this trip. It was great to see him get that experience. I'm sure he enjoyed it even with the loss in the second match.
Yeah, I mean, what an honor. And to go through like that large of a break is just a real testament to the work that he's put in, how he's developed his game, and to get the goal, awesome. Happy to have him back though.
Yeah, absolutely. There was also, last year we got the video that, man, at this point really tugs on your Austin FC heartstrings with Ruben and Julio in, I think it was like a kind of a Lexus sponsored video last year where they drove around, shooting the shit together. And that video will always put a smile on your face. So we got a 2023 edition yesterday, same type of, little sponsored deal there. But you had Ethan Finley, Johnny G, and Hector Jimenez in the Lexus, just chopping it up together. So it's about 10 minutes of those guys just kind of shooting the shit. So I would encourage any Austin FC diehard to check that out when you've got the extra time. It was a fun watch. And I think the biggest conversation piece around that was the unanimous vote that Danny Pereira is the guy on the team that they would not let date their daughters. So that piece of information, they all agreed. And I think even on the Instagram comments, I think Danny was like, hey, what the hell?
That's great.
Yeah.
We got to get McConaughey in there.
Yeah, right.
One of those what's the car commercials he does?
Lincoln. So he probably contractually cannot get in that car.
That's probably right. But it would be great to have him in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's funny about Danny. Yeah, that probably checks out.
Yeah. I was thinking it's obviously going to skew younger. And it did. I think, Owen Wolf just doesn't, he seems like, coach's kid, seems a little like, to me, a little straight edge. He's younger, of course, like Danny, the leader in the clubhouse there, at least from those three guys.
None of them wanted to fight Danny if it came down to it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk last business day here, because what could have been just the showdown of the season across the league is now still extremely important for Austin FC2. Colorado Rapids coming to town. This is the first seed. They have clinched the number one seed in the West, clinching that first round bye as well. And we talked about the table on Sunday night's episode, so we know still Tacoma Defiance 3 points ahead of Austin with 2 matches remaining. Austin 2 points ahead of Sporting Kansas City 2 with 2 matches remaining. In Austin FC2, winning the goal differential battle against those two squads currently, but losing that tiebreaker of total wins. So again, getting a win against this Rapids 2 side, going to be extremely tough no matter where you play, as we know, already faced them twice this season, but could go a long way in helping us secure a top 3 seed and the right to choose our own opponent come the first round. Yeah. I also believe that any positive result here, so even if you get to a shootout and lose, that will clinch a home playoff game in the first round because we are still separated by 6 points between us and St. Louis City 2. But talking a little bit more about Rapids 2, first off in this matchup, the first meeting, a 1-0 loss for Austin FC 2 up there in Denver. You had the Marlon Vargas goal in the 51st minute and a couple close Austin chances that just don't find the back of the net. I believe we had a CJ Fadri off the post chance in that one that almost leveled it late. And then I think we will always remember as fans of Austin FC2 the second matchup between these two clubs this year. Austin up 3-0 at the half. We give up 3 in the second half and end up losing the penalty shootout to only bring home 1 point. And like the thing about that match is, like bringing home a point from Colorado is fine. Like it's great. The majority of the teams do not do that when you travel to Denver at this level. But just the way that match happened, man, you would think that our guys have some revenge on the mind here coming up on Friday.
Yeah, I don't know, man. At this point, for me, it's about holding off this SKC club behind us. We're not catching Tacoma. We're obviously not catching Colorado. So I'm interested to see if Colorado goes full tilt on us here, or if we get a little rotation. Maybe they get some of their academy dudes in these games. That's the only thing that I'm looking at, because we're holding on for dear life. And this SKC club that's behind us obviously just got points off of us. And they're right on our ass, and they already got more wins than us. So if we draw with them points wise, they'll have the tiebreaker. So it's going to be a tough match. I'm interested to see if Colorado actually brings their full squad. I don't know their academy. I don't know their academy players well enough to try to speculate as to who they could be running out there. You look at their last game versus the Monarchs, and they're not starting Jackson Valty, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So they're a good team, man. It's gonna be a good match.
I was looking at the remaining schedules for Tacoma and SKC just to see if I could argue with you a little bit on us maybe not being able to catch Tacoma. I think you're spot on there. The 2 remaining matches for Tacoma against playoff teams that are out already of the playoff picture. SKC, though, favorable for us. I think they match up on the road against Loons 2 this weekend, and the next weekend they host St. Louis City 2. Both of those teams not clinched yet with clinched a playoff spot yet. So potentially that final match, St. Louis could be playing for nothing. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Loons 2 at home going to be giving SKC 2 everything they can handle this weekend as well. Back to Colorado, like you kind of hinted at, I had here in the notes, maybe we see a little bit of rotation here for Rapid 2 because they have nothing to play for out of trying to keep that form that we've seen them really maintain throughout this entire season. If you've been keeping up with this team, then names like Yosuke Hanya, Marlon Vargas, Oliver Larraz will all ring a bell from terrorizing us in that last half that we played against this team. And of course, there are some bigger assets on this roster as well, whether it's Darren Yappy, who we've seen at Q2 before. Yep. He got 4 contributions in his 5 next pro appearances this season. Moise Bombito, who we know has spent most of the year with the first team. But, I believe he was their super draft pick last year, top 3, if I recall correctly. Kevin Cabral's younger brother, Remy, 14 goals leading this side so far this year. Looks like he's only appeared in like 17 or 18 matches, if I recall correctly. And then Calvin Harris, who I believe came over from FC Cincinnati in the offseason. He was a high super draft pick within the last few years and hasn't appeared a ton for either club here. But all of those guys potentially on the pitch, at the pitch on Friday. And of course, the return of the grill master, Jackson Valty, since he went up there to Colorado, 6 appearances, 2 starts, 230 total minutes for Jackson, 1 assist in his time with Rapids 2. And I'll say this, I bet he starts on Friday.
Oh, well, I'll take it.
Yeah.
You can see him. Yeah, look, I mean, they got a loaded roster. 64 goals on the year. They're the most potent offense in the league. We're the most stout defense in the league. So it's going to be the battle of 2 strengths here. Man, I hope they're rotated, bro. That's all I really got. I hope they're rotated. And then you're looking at us. Again, the CJ impact just lingers. We have not been able to find a way to replace his impact out there on the pitch. And you're looking at this matchup. Man, I'm nervous about it, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
same.
really am.
I mean, dude, we have not won since that Quakes 2 match 5 matches ago, 3 draws and a loss over the last 4 matches. And I think the worst run of form, again, we said this a couple episodes ago, if this is a tough run of form for you,
Yeah.
you're doing okay. But yeah, man, looking back, this outside of, okay, so we had that 3-match losing streak back in mid-May where we lost at Colorado. We took that 1-0 loss on the PK to San Jose at home, and then lost to Dynamo Dos 2-0 on the road. Outside of that, man, this is the toughest stretch. And again, like, you don't want to go into the playoffs in any league in poor form. So hopefully pulling together a result here against Colorado and then finishing strong at North Texas next week on decision day. Talking a little bit more about us, you mentioned, we're still obviously missing CJ, but this team should get some reinforcements back. We noted that Czech Toure was nowhere to be found against Loons 2 on Sunday. And shout out to the Austin FC History Twitter account that correctly reminded us about the red card rules in MLS Next Pro. When you get a red card, you don't sit out the next match necessarily. If there was another match against that same club later in the season, your suspension is then delayed by months. So Czech got a red card against Loons 2 earlier in the season. That's why he sat out on Sunday. So I think we should expect him back. And we did do our due diligence. And looked at that rule again. So like if we had not played Loons 2 again after that red card, the suspension would have been served on the next league match. But question marks surrounding Bobasi, question marks surrounding Micah. Do those guys come in and play right away after being on international duty this past weekend? I expect we see both of them suit up. I think being in the starting lineup is certainly in question. And then what's Kip Keller's status? If this was the first team, we would get at least a game day injury report update. But this is Austin FC 2, and we'll have no idea. So we want Kip Keller out there.
Absolutely. And that's another reason why I'm so worried about this game. We got a lot of question marks at some important pieces to this club right now. So it's going to be a tough match. Colorado, they can put it on you real fast, as we learned in that second half of the second matchup there. What do we have any info on Kippy?
Nope.
Nothing.
Damn. Not that I've seen.
Okay. Well, yeah, we definitely need him.
Yeah. I mean, so if he's out, right, you're probably going to see Sal and Joe. You're going to see Chris Pinkham if he's still able to go out there on the right. You could also see Czech slot in there on the right. We've seen him play right back before, and you could play Anthony Donda or maybe Charlie Asensio there on the left. So there are still certainly ways to align this back line in a way that we've had a lot of success before. But Kip Keller has been, when he's been with this team, quite good in my eyes. Him and Sal, obviously, both part of the best back line in Next Pro. But we just know that his, the physical stature of somebody like Kip is just a little bit above this Next Pro level, right? Not saying, not super confident about the skill, but we know that just that baseline athleticism is, something that we would need. We really want to have out there against this Colorado team. Anything else you think? I mean, AOC got the start last time. I would rather see Sebastian up top at this point. I know, not taking anything away from AOC's nice finish on Sunday. Sebas has just been more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, he's really turned it on, and he deserves to be the starter in my eyes as well. Outside of that, the form of David is going to be huge. With no CJ, he very well could be our best outfield player. So we need him to step up if we're going to win this game. And I think he does that.
All right.
And guides us to victory.
Right. What's the score?
I'm going 1-0. We're gonna rely on the defense. We're gonna shut these dudes out at home. I assume they're gonna be rotated. So hopefully we can take advantage of that. They don't have anything to play for at this point. There's no supporter shield in Next Pro, is there?
I don't think so.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, if there is one of those, then they're definitely battling with Charlotte. Both teams on 60 points through 26 matches played. So I guess maybe that's something we can look up after the pod. And obviously, if it does exist, be paying attention to come Friday. So you said 1-0 shutout at home. I'm going to go 2-2 draw and a shootout victory. So 2 points for Austin. It's just tough. The way we have seen these guys up close and Watt keeping track of them from afar, it's really tough for me to say that we can get the full 3 points here. Obviously, we would love to see it. It would be huge. But hey, go prove me wrong, boys. Like, bring home the full 3 points. I think we can definitely hang with them, be level after 90, and then we've been pretty darn good in shootouts. When you've got the best keeper in the world in net, you feel pretty good going into a shootout situation. So 2-2 for me, 1-0 for E. And that kickoff 8 p.m. Central out there at the pitch this coming Friday. So hope to see everybody there. It's a big one. No best ball update. We did, of course, have a few scores go into the books for the 4 teams over the weekend, but not enough for a full week. So we'll have that double game week score coming up on what will be Monday's pod with the Sunday game. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the bets, E. And look, man, all good things have to come to an end, you know? And in case of our units streak there, the profit streak, which was at 4 pods in a row, comes to an end in a big way. E. Our 4 MLS bets, SKC plus 210, the 2-unit hammer. Hit me. LAFC plus 125. San Jose plus 310 at the Fighting Runes. And then St. Louis. Yeah, we'll take it. And then St. Louis City plus 260 up 2-0 on the Galaxy.
What?
Yeah, they were.
They lost?
Yeah, no, they drew, but we lost because we bet them to win. So hit me. Yeah, man. I mean, with the MLS bets, like we put in the narrative bets there. So like our wallets made the sacrifice for Austin FC this past weekend, and we will proudly continue doing that through the end of the regular season. We also had those NFL specials, E. And yeah, look, it wasn't me that said Giants plus 3 2-unit hammer. I don't know who it was, but you can hit me nonetheless. Not enough emphasis on that for how bad that ended up.
What a fucking game that was. For the record, I'm not a Giants fan. For the record, I'm not a Giants fan. But wow. I mean, they drove right down the field. Start the game.
Yeah.
Right down the field. Bad snap. Block field goal. Game was over.
Yep. It was wild. 40-0. I saw some tweet listing off the Giants, like all the things they did bad in that game. Lose 40-0, lose the turnover battle, whatever. And like all of it was like no team has ever done that in the season. The Giants did it in one game. But not all was lost because the ZG teaser comes through as it tends to do. We had the Washington, Jacksonville, Baltimore 7-point tease at plus 130. That comes through with ease, no sweat at all. I'm gonna say in the first half, the Jags and the Commanders were making me sweat a little bit there. Minus 5.7 units on the week. E. That puts us back below that negative 30 unit threshold, negative 32.33 units. Let's get it back here in week 32. I'll toss it to you. Nice and easy. We're back. You know that's where we're going. What do you got?
ATX at home at the Q, baby. All the homies are there. We're playing Portland. We get ATX at minus 120. Lock it in. And we'll go ahead and do our ATX pairing here with Seba to score. No odds quite yet. I imagine it's going to come in right around that plus 140, plus 150. But we're going to take it because then you look at Seba, like he's not on the same pace as last year, but he's missed a couple games. He's not too far off. He's been contributing, so I think Seba gets on the board here, and we'll, of course, have those odds on the next podcast. I'll toss it back to you. Where are we going next? This could be a bit of a controversial call here, pick. Going to the Revs at Colorado. Now, obviously, there is a lot going on with this club right now. They've had 2 back-to-back heart-wrenching draws, and What? Richie Williams just departed. Sorry, I forgot his name there.
Well, let's talk about that just for a second, because the timeline of this,
it's absurd.
Yesterday, so we get the article on The Athletic that is detailing the meetings that happened in the morning on Tuesday with the Revs. Because of course, if anybody hasn't been paying attention, you can go catch up. Just search Bruce Arena resignation. You'll find it all.
Yep.
Bruce Arena was away from the team for a while, administrative leave. He resigned after their match on Saturday. And then on Tuesday, apparently, players refused to practice. They wanted to meet and find out more, because apparently these players know about as much as we do in terms of what actually happened with Coach Arena, who was involved there. And, they rightfully want some details. And so some meetings happened there. More reports came out about, I think, 2 assistant coaches who had to be separated and had left practice early already under interim coach Richie Williams. And so then all of a sudden yesterday, so here's the timeline from our buddy Tommy Scoops. 8:40 a.m., meeting with players, team president, and HR to ask questions about the arena situation. An hour later, unsatisfied their time with the team president, players requested and were granted time with the entire coaching staff. 2 hours after that, players still unsatisfied with the lack of information and with interim head coach Richie Williams. 50 minutes later, New England press conference with Richie Williams, originally scheduled for 30 minutes prior, starts. Carlos Heel, who was supposed to be in the press conference, no longer can join. Sometime after the press conference, senior players meet with the technical director, Kurt Analfo, about Richie Williams. 2.5 hours later, The Athletic reports on the day's events, players not trusting Williams, his future being in doubt, and the strife between Williams and the assistants, Josephs and Vanderberg. 4 hours later, New England announces that Clint P. takes over as new interim manager, who I believe was the Revolution 2 coach coming in today. Both of those assistants, Joseph and Vanderberg, depart the club immediately, and Richie Williams' status is to be determined. So there's the long-winded explanation of what the hell just went on with this team yesterday, and I'll toss it back to you. We're still betting on them.
That's right. With all that information, we're definitely still taking them. Look, they're just too good of a team versus this Colorado club, in my eyes, to lose this, particularly after the 2 matches that they've just come off. So I'm going to go ahead and take them. We get them at, I believe, 130. Oh, excuse me, 170 at Colorado. So we'll take that, despite all of the bullshit going on there.
I mean, this is a team, these guys, no matter what's going on behind closed doors there, they're still second in the Shield race. They're trying to, hold off a number of teams there in the East for that second position. And they're playing the worst team in the league. So I'm with you on that. Plus 170. I like the call. I'm gonna stay in the East here. We're gonna go north of the border to Montreal. Montreal's currently sitting in 8th position, trying to maintain that wild card spot and hopefully catch up. They are playing 10th seeded Chicago at home. They have a 3-point lead on the Fire as things stand right now. And as we know, Montreal been a good home team this year. So we're getting Montreal minus 120. I'll lock it in and pass it back to you.
Well, I'm going back to Miami. Messi, going to be good to go. Sits versus Bolivia. He's back. They're in Atlanta. Get him at plus 150. Lock it in.
Yeah, I mean, Miami at plus money. How are we supposed to pass on that?
What do you what else you want us to do?
Yep. I'm going to take another team at plus money here. I'm going to Dallas. FC Dallas hosting the Seattle Sounders here. We can get Dallas plus 130. So locking in a perfect bet. Why not?
Nothing wrong with that. Going to a rivalry match here above the border. Vancouver at Toronto. Vancouver, a good team. Toronto, not so much. Get them at plus 130. Lock it in.
Yeah, and again, another narrative bet there. If Toronto wants to take care of business and take, a point or all of them off of Vancouver, we will certainly be down for that. Again, our wallets are sacrificial to the team at this point of the season. And I'm gonna throw in one more NFL special. You're on probation for a week. No NFL bets for you. I'm going to go back to the 3-team teaser here. We've got Philadelphia down to minus 6.5. hosting the Vikings tomorrow. Then on Sunday, I'm looking at Buffalo -9.5 hosting the Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to jump on that bandwagon now, after week 1. They are -9.5 at home against the Jets. So we're going to throw a 7-point tease here. So we're going to get Philly at plus odds. We're going to tease Buffalo and Dallas down to 2.5-point favorites there. So field goals get it done in both of those games. And that teaser is plus 120. So you know what? I'm going to 2-unit hammer that, and lock it in. What do you think about that?
Well,
Rogue hammer.
Considering I texted you yesterday with 3 of those picks in my 6.
Oh, did you?
I'll say that you stole that from me entirely.
See, you sent me that NFL bet, and just based on what you did last week, I completely ignored it. We'll see if your probation is lifted next week. These are the week 32 betting picks. He's got Austin -120 at home against the Timbers, New England +170 on the road against the Rapids, Inter Miami +150 on the road against Atlanta, and Vancouver +130 on the road against Toronto. I've got Seba to score, no odds yet. Montreal -120 at home against the Fire, Dallas +130 against the Sounders, and then the 3-team Philly, Buffalo, and Dallas 7-point teaser +120 on the NFL side of things. Those are the week 32 betting picks, and that will wrap up episode 90 of the North End podcast. If you've got 5 seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the pod, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Help us grow the podcast. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this video, hit that thumbs up. Like the episode. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the 3-team teasers of the North End. And again, I know I've been adding this in late over the last couple podcasts, but look, you listen to the North End podcast. You love the North End podcast. You might have some friends who also like Austin FC. Maybe they like podcasts. Make sure they're listening to the North End podcast. Get us in all of your buddies' content rotations. We would greatly appreciate any and all of that you would do for us. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We will see you on Friday for the big Austin FC 2 showdown against Rapids 2. We will see all of you at Soccer Church at Q2 on Sunday night. And we'll be back here on Monday, recapping all of that and everything else in between for everybody's favorite team. Until then, he's E. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.